Hello? Is anyone there? Who's there? Who are you? What are you doing in the attic? Okay, whoever you are, you just need to say who you are, and that's all, okay? Oh, okay. It's just that suit of armor we got for the History's Mysteries Museum. That's all. Okay. So lifelike. Weren't you just over there? How are you right here? Okay, I'm gonna back out real slow and oh, okay. You just stay right there, Mr. Knight. Don't you go anywhere. I gotta start this review. Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and today I would love to know, do you like strange museums? Do you like to stop at those roadside attractions that are a little bit odd and kind of a little strange? I kind of love those, and I go back to, this is why I think I love them. It's because when I was probably 7 years old, our family went on a road trip, and we went through Arizona, and we went to the Grand Canyon. And near the Grand Canyon at the time was a Flintstones theme park. And it was kind of this weird, off-the-road place that was really strange, and I loved it as a kid. I actually got to go back to it as an adult later on, and so I've only been there ever twice, and now it is closed. I went in, and I just remember I told the lady who was giving us tickets to go inside, I said, hey, I came here as a little kid, and she said, well, it probably hasn't changed since then. We went inside and we were like the only people there. It was so entertaining and so interesting to me, but definitely an experience. And so I love those kinds of odd little roadside museums and stuff like that. I think it's just part of something nostalgic to me that I really enjoy. Well, in this book, Fright Knight, Ghosts of Fear Street #7, we definitely have a strange roadside museum, but this time it's on Fear Street. This one is the History's Mysteries Museum that is put together by a family and this old house on Fear Street. And, you know, this being Fear Street, not everything is a wax dummy. I really enjoyed this book. Now, I know some people, I've read some reviews, because usually what I do after I read one of these books is I go read some reviews about it. And some people did not love this book. They kind of thought it was a little bit different, a little bit boring. And I think that's because it leans heavy into some fantasy. It's more like a fantasy horror story than it is a straight up spooky story. So this one is all about this family. They're living in this old house, and the dad has turned the old house into a museum on the ground floor. And it's a big house. Like, it has a conservatory. So you know it's a giant old house. And so the dad's turned this into an old museum, and the two kids are just kind of along for the ride here. The two kids are brother and sister, Mike and Carly, and I go back to my same old thing. I think these kinds of books are at their best when you have two kids that sometimes are siblings, sometimes are just good friends, and they play off each other well. And I will say, even though in this one they are brother and sister, the sister and brother duo, they're not annoying. They tease each other and they play pranks on each other, but they never come across to a point where you're like, oh, will you stop? Like, you're actually being really annoying. Like, that's actually annoying what you are doing. They never cross into that territory. And Mike and Carly are in this museum when a new exhibit arrives, the Sir Thomas suit of armor that has come from their uncle. And when they get this thing, They open it up and it's this huge suit of armor, and they're going to put it inside the museum for people to see, and supposedly it's haunted. Well, one night after Carly is playing some pranks on Mike, Mike and Carly come downstairs and they start to notice something strange. Is the suit of armor actually haunted? Is something going on in the museum that is beyond explanation? Well, you have to read to find out, because this is a spoiler-free review. But I will tell you, by the glow on the cover, you could probably guess what might be happening. So, this was a really fun book. I don't know if it was the atmosphere, if it was like the museum setting that really just, I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I was immediately drawn into this old house. It kind of reminded me of like Clue vibes, and it had like all those sorts of like old creepy houses that are really large, but then also with the wax museum and like history stuff. There was an Egypt room, there's a medieval room. It's all these things that are, in my opinion, so much fun. And so I just thought, oh, this is a great setting, such a great setting. It's also really well done as it's very enclosed. I think this is one of those really good examples of a setting that is very enclosed in one space, where you have a lot going on in that space, but you never feel like you need to see the world outside of it, because what is happening in the space is so captivating. And Mike's journey throughout this book is really well done. There are some plot twists. There was one particular plot twist that about halfway through, I started thinking, wait a minute, that character has said this, and I'm curious if this is that. And lo and behold, it was. But the journey to get to the ending of this book, where there is a climactic battle, I will say that is one of the things that the Ghosts of Fear Street books do really well. There's usually a lot more action in these, and the monster usually shows up around halfway or even sooner in a lot of these books, versus a Goosebumps book, which is usually a little bit quieter and a little bit more like ominous sometimes, where you know the thing is there, or you know something bad is going to happen, and you're kind of just waiting for that shoe to fall. But in these books, the bad things start happening pretty quick. And once the Knight and Mike start to interact with each other, things just keep going from there and do not let up. I thought the final climactic battle reminded me a lot of, this is going to be the thing. So it reminded me a lot of the scene in The Sword and the Stone, where the wizard and Mad Madam Mim are in like a wizard duel. That is what it reminded me of, like the back and forth and the trying to outwit each other and trying to come up with another thing. That is kind of what this was like, because there's a lot of moments where Mike has to figure out, how am I going to defeat what's happening here? And I have to be clever and think it through. Also, I will say there is such a heartwarming moment between Mike and Carly later on in the book that I thought, oh, I love that. I love that. And to me, this is the example of like a brother and sister relationship where they just care about each other. And in the end, even though they tease each other, they want to help each other. And I think that was a beautiful thing to have in this book, because I just recently read another book, Bad Hair Day, Goosebumps number 41 by R.L. Stine. And that one has a brother and sister duo that do not like each other and really don't care about each other. And I left that book with a lot of thoughts. You can look at my review on the channel. But I also left that book thinking, oh, I don't really like how those two were portrayed and their interactions that much. I wish it had been a little different. This book was kind of the answer to that, because the characterization of Mike and Carly is really well done, and the journey they go on is earned. It was an earned journey, I thought. So, yes, this book is not as much in the horror camp. It definitely has a strong fantasy vibe. So, if you like fantasy and you like spooky books, you might like this book quite a bit. If you are into Ghosts of Fear Street more for the creatures or more for the spooky atmosphere, this one is probably not going to be the one for you. I think that this one is a definitely different feel than the other Ghosts of Fear Street books I've read so far. But I loved this one. I don't think this is my favorite Ghosts of Fear Street. that's probably still The Ooze, because I think that book had a very strong theme. This one had an almost strong theme. This book has a situation where you have the dad really has this dream that he's trying to fulfill, and he's kind of bringing his kids along into it, and they get swept up into it. But there's not really more said about that. It's just kind of what it is. And so I felt like there was a missed opportunity there, because I think that there were some really interesting things that could have been done, especially with the knight and with other things that take place with that theme. But it was almost like that theme kind of got a little bit dropped until the very end, and even then it was just a reiteration of the same theme. So I think that that was a little bit of a weak point, but otherwise this was a lot of fun. Okay, so here it comes. What rating am I going to give Fright Night, book number 7 in Ghosts of Fear Street? I think that I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. It was really well done. I loved it a lot. I don't think it was the top tier of everything for me, so I'm going to give it that 4, because I do think that, like I said, the theme could have been a little more built out than it was. But otherwise, it was a fun book that I really enjoyed. So definitely check this one out if you have not read Ghosts of Fear Street and you like fantasy books, you like spooky books. Jump to this book. It's a fun one. I really enjoyed it. Have you read this one? Let me know in the comments down below, and until next time, keep reading, everybody. Bye!